Thank you all for coming and joining us this evening. I'm Laura. I'm the Artists and Venue Services Manager here at Brighton Fringe. We also have Ella, who is our tech expert this evening, who is the coordinator in our team, and we are joined by two marketing experts here. We've got Kaz and we've got Tom, who I will leave to introduce themselves in a moment. Little bit of housekeeping. Do you want to come say hi?
I'll say hi. Hi.
This is Ella. Little bit of sort of schedule. So these guys will introduce themselves in a moment. We'll then have about 30 minutes for a bit of a discussion between me and those two, and then we'll open it up to the floor for you guys to ask your questions. I hope that we will cover a lot. If you have a question that we don't get to by the end of it, do just email me and Ella at Take Part. We will pass it on to these guys and get that answered for you as soon as possible. Just put your question in the text box down at the bottom, and Ella and I will pick it up and pass it on to these guys. Okay. Thanks so much. So whoever wants to go first, Kaz or Tom, please take it away.
Well, okay, I'll go for it then, because Kaz is still on mute at the moment, so I'll take the floor. All right, my name's Tom. I've been doing, it'll be my third Fringe this year. So I'm not super experienced in the world of Fringe, but when it comes to marketing, I've been doing that for 15 years and it nearly drove me mad, hence the reason of wanting to do shows and getting into the real world and doing things like that, which is more fun. And it's way more easier to market your own show than it is somebody's product that you know is rubbish. So I did social media for 8 years, ran a couple of large social media accounts that did very well, and run a bunch of other accounts for people like Guinness World Records and Eurovision. So ran all of their marketing when they go live. Worked for a PR guerrilla marketing company in London for 15 years. So doing PR stunts, experiential marketing, and guerrilla marketing. And that's not dressed as a guerrilla. That's, for those that don't know what guerrilla marketing is, it means you don't have permission and you just go out and do random crazy things, which we won't encourage because Fringe, we need to do things by the book. So, but we'll go through that in a bit. But yeah, that's basically me. My background was in circus before any of all this. And so I'm now reliving my old former glory days by getting back into putting on shows.
Thanks so much.
Don't worry.
Kaz, yeah, take it away. Thank you.
Right, okay, me then. Hello, I'm Kaz. I'm just gonna share my screen. 1 second. Okay, there we go. Is that working? All working okay? Thumbs up. Perfect, brilliant. So my name's Kaz Slota. I work for, I am half of a micro marketing agency called SparkAMPM, which I run with my good friend Alice. I have been working as an arts marketer for a good 15 years now. But I started out wanting to do a whole lot of different things. So when I studied sort of theatre and things at uni, and I came out and I was like, I am so good at writing essays. I'm going to be an academic and write books. And then I realised I didn't enjoy that very much. Then for a bit, I thought, no, I'm a performer. That's what I'm going to do. And after many theatre and education tours and wrangling small primary school children, I decided not for me either. So I moved to backstage work. And I started off doing all kinds of odd jobs in theatre. I started at the King's Head Theatre in London. My first job there was as a dresser for various productions that they had. So that was it was collecting a lot of props and doing a lot of laundry mostly. And then I moved through various other organisations. I worked as an admin assistant, and then I became an admin manager for the theatre. And then about 15 years ago, I moved into the marketing side, which I'd been doing sort of off and on the whole time because I was working for really small organisations where everyone does a bit of everything. And then was there for about 10 years in one theatre as their marketing manager. And then about a year before the pandemic, I went freelance and set up Spark, and now we work with all kinds of companies, cultural companies. We mostly work with festivals and theatre companies. We do sort of touring theatre, off West End, Fringe theatre, a lot of arts festivals, like I say, and we do as well as it working for lots of different clients all over the country, we're also working on all kinds of different projects. So visual art, outdoor events, installations, theatre, music, whatever you can imagine. We've probably done a little bit of it. And we offer, excuse me, we offer a whole range of different services, so people can come to us and have all of the marketing for their show done. So we do audience research projects, we look into ticketing data, we see what trends are, what might have historically happened with an organisation. We do a lot of online work. We are running social media campaigns, ad campaigns, email marketing campaigns, and we also are able to be a bit creative and make people's assets. So we do flyer design, brochure design, we do video editing, copywriting, all kinds of things. And like I say, we have ended up working mostly with theatre and festivals, one of which is Brighton Fringe. So that's me and my experience.
Thanks so much. So we'll jump into a couple of pre-prepared questions. So let's start off sort of at the very beginning. So can you tell us, like, what is a marketing campaign, and how does one, as an artist putting on maybe their first ever show, even start setting up and creating a marketing campaign?
I'm pretty sure Tom's got some more to say about this, but planning. Your marketing campaign is your plan. So it's so tempting to make your marketing activity go with how your ticket sales are going. It's so tempting to be like, oh, it's doing quite well, or we can relax a bit, or oh no, it's doing badly, and to be quite reactive. But what you want to really do is plan ahead, work out your activity that you're going to do through your entire campaign. You can always work out in advance some sort of crisis options if you've got to a certain date and you haven't sold what you want to. But planning, and being proactive and not reactive.
That 100% agree to that. I'm just going to share my screen, if that's all right. See if we can do it right this time. Is that my screen?
Yep.
Amazing. Right. Let me. Right. Bear with me, guys. So I love the word plan, because we had. There's me. Can you see that? Sorry, just to make sure before I waffle.
Yeah, we can see it.
You can. Awesome. So yeah, I said your plan for getting your show or brand in front of your target audience. So you can look at everybody else's and you can study other people and what they're doing, but remember, this is you, your show, your audience. So those things are really important to remember. I always go by this, which is know your brand before you start this plan. So who are you? What do you do? Why are you doing it? And I'll come to social proofing later on, which is just one of those key pretentious phrases that they love to use. Decide on your budget, your time, and what skill sets you've got. So one of the first things, especially for new fringers, budget is a massive thing. So when you're coming up with this plan, obviously you're going to want to try and look at your skill sets. That's going to save you money. So what can you do yourself completely? When I first started doing the Fringe the first year, everything in-house, social media, photography, graphic design, if your budget restricts that, and if you need to decide that earlier on, what budget are you going to set aside? Because if you don't have any budget, then you're going to have to start learning some skill sets, and that's fine. You can do that. There's loads of YouTube resources out there for all these things. And how much time you want to put into it. So, and then later on, we're going to get to my big key phrase: work smart, then hard. And I believe yeah, for now that's it, and I'll come back off of this. So yeah, going back to what you said, make a plan, stick to that plan, because there will be times where, like you say, you don't necessarily sell a lot of tickets, or you need to ramp it up. But if you keep to your plan, then you should be fine. Stop sharing. Am I back again?
You're back.
Hey, there you go.
And how far out would you start planning your marketing campaign? So when would you start planning it, but also when would you plan for the actual marketing to start? How far out from your first performance?
You can start as soon as possible, really. Obviously there's not too much point emailing everyone telling them to buy tickets if your show isn't on sale yet. But once your show is on sale, you can start. And something you can do even before you're on sale is get all the bits and pieces prepped. So as you get, because obviously I'm fringe shows have extremely small teams. Sometimes it's just one person doing everything. So the more you can get ready in advance before the actual run of the show, when performing is your main focus, there's lots of things you could prep in advance. What you might have your main show description, your main show copy, you might have your main image. Do you have a version that works for different sizes of social media? Do you have a version that might work for email? Do you have a video? Has it been edited? Have you got different formats in landscape or portrait? There's lots and lots of things you can get doing in advance, and a really important one is, who is your audience? What kind of people do you want to come to your show? What art do they like? Where do they live? What kind of other things do they do for fun beyond coming to your event? What are they interested in? What do they watch on TV? You can do all of that work well in advance of you even going on sale.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. Like, arguably, Jan and Feb is the best time because, let's face it, you're not going sitting in a pub garden at the moment. So what you can do is you can sit and do some market research. Yay! It's boring, but any good marketing plan should have market research in it, and that goes back to the who is your target audience. Sit there, look at things now like similar shows. If you think that your audience is maybe the kind of people that go to music festivals or the people that like arts festivals, start looking at their Instagram accounts, start seeing what type of content they put out, look what resonates. You might look and go, well, this type of video seems to do really well for the Great Escape Festival, or whatever it is that you think would be a suitable audience, and then start to think about utilizing what's working well. Because like I say, it's your plan for your show, for your target audience. So figure out that your target audience is really important. And I would say the other thing is start now again and collect assets. So if you've done shows before, this is your time to go through and edit some stories, some reels, get some good photos that you've got from previous shows and start putting them into a little folder on your desktop. That's what I always do, which I'll have 30 to 40 just assets that are ready to go, so that I'm not thinking about that in the run up to my show, or I'm not thinking about that. I'm literally, they're sat in a folder or on my phone. So when I wake up in the morning, I go click, post, and that's my daily social content gone out without thinking about it, because I've prepped it now. And if you're a new fringer, that's absolutely fine. Do a little bit of market research, but start thinking about now, what could you do that will embody the spirit of your show? And by that I mean, because you don't have any content yet, you can create intrigue about what you do. And I'll show you a little clip of that in a minute that I've prepared. But yeah, collect your assets, start doing that now, and do your market research.
Yeah. Yes, exactly that.
Thanks, guys. And sort of building on from that, so you've worked out who your target audience is, and how do you start building their interest and perhaps a community around your show or your company or your work, so that you can get them to come to your first show, but also maybe long term as well, they're still engaging in your work and your content.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go to my window screen again. Sorry about this, guys. I'm sure there's a smoother way of doing this, but you know, technology and all that. As my screen sharing again? Amazing. Right. Let's pull this back up. Where's it gone? Here we go. So, I would say there's two different things. We've got traditional hype and digital hype. So, to build hype around your show, and that'll lead into building a community, I split it into two different sides of my marketing, the digital side and the traditional side. Digital wise, if you don't have an Instagram account or Facebook account, start that now, and just start slowly posting things out there. It could be, you know, you could be building props, something that's really intriguing to people, and post that as a story, and start, you know, following other people that are in maybe similar threads. Fringe is perfect for that because you can start networking quite early on with your show. Part of the digital hype is come up with that daily plan. So post daily, which could just be a story. It doesn't have to be some video that's taking you hours to edit. Literally just something small. Remember the power of video. Instagram and all the Facebook and all these different platforms now prioritize video content, and that's where you'll get the best views and engagement, and it's also where you have better chance of being seen and discovered. And by that I mean people scrolling through a For You page, if you've tagged it and you are of a similar interest to what that person likes, that's where they can discover you. If you just post single photos that just appear onto your account, it's very difficult for people to find you. So remember so even if you just have 6 photos, put them into a little video clip and post that. You have more chance of reaching a new audience than you do of just posted them separately. Start thinking about filming your promo, especially because that's going to be really good on the Fringe website, where people just don't read as much anymore, which is, you know, due to the brain rot of social media. People just like to watch a video. So if you can, I would highly, highly, highly recommend you coming up with a promo video. And for that, you don't need to have a show already. This is an example here on this phone. This is before we actually had any footage from this immersive theatre show we put on, which was a disco cult, and that was the theme. And so we just created this in Canva, just on a online video photo editing thing, and it was just a simple post, which was like a little temple and a corridor with a slogan and a date. That's all we had. So then the second one, after we built our first prop, which was this little creepy puppet booth, we took it down to Brighton Beach and we did the same slogan again, and there's a little date pops up on the video. People see that and they go, oh, it's Brighton, that's where I live. Or what is that? That's weird. And so now you're starting to create intrigue, but without any footage from the show. And the far right one was one of the costumes we finally made for the show. So we took it out into the lanes, started taking some pictures and posting it. So you could think of little things like that. Digital hype. I hope, am I all right to keep waffling through these?
Yeah, go for it.
Waffle on.
All right, waffle away. Free listings. This is going to be a good friend of yours. There's plenty of free listing sites out there, like the Argus. And this is, you know, still in conjunction with Fringe. You can just go onto any of these sites and list an event that can be discovered. So the Argus, Visit Brighton, and I believe there might be one more. And I'll put all this in. You can ask questions later on, but there are free listings. So you could just go on What's on Brighton and register your show in that. Influencers, you can start thinking about influencers you might want to reach out to that are Brighton-based, I don't know, food vloggers if your show's around about food, or music if your show's around music. See if you can find some of them, and then if you are going to invite them to the show, you've done that beforehand. The press, we'll come to that later on because there's a question about that, but getting a press release sorted and sending it out to the press so you can have someone come and review is also good. A giveaway, that's one thing I try and do every show, is I take the financial hit of 2 tickets and I do a giveaway. But you do have to look into that because there are specific things within UK law that you have to write when you do a giveaway. So make sure you do your research or DM me on Instagram after this and I can give you what that is. And the venue social. So think about which venue you're doing it in and do they have a good social media account? And if they do, get involved with them. Because at the end of the day, people come into this venue or people that normally go to that venue, they like that venue. They go there a lot. So if you work with the venue and their socials, you've got a good chance that you'll find a new audience there free of charge from their socials. And then traditional hype, quite simple. Posters, look at this nice shiny one we had here with the Brighton Fringe. Leaflets, also helps if you have a gorgeous golden retriever that you can take around town when giving out leaflets. And PR stunts. This is one we did where we made a big sandwich board, put some of the costumes on. And because I don't know if you can see in the picture there, there's a little Brighton Fringe flyering lanyard there. So make sure you got one of them when you go out your leaflets so you don't get in trouble. But this caused hype when we were around about town. We had a little speaker playing with some disco tunes and people were just coming up to us going, "What are you doing?" Rather than us having to go up to them. So they're the two simple. They're the two different avenues I think you can go down when thinking about building hype and starting to build an audience, a community. We'll come back to that in a second. Let me reduce that. So over to you, Kaz. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's a really good overview of the sort of the practical activity you can do to build a community about your show. I think the only thing I would want to add to that is that the one more practical thing is if there is a particular theme or a particular community that you would think would enjoy your work, you can reach out to organisations that serve that community. If it's a poetry show, get in touch with your local writers groups. If it's a show, like Tom said, about food, get in touch with some cooking clubs or restaurants or things like that. But something that's kind of more, not quite as practical, but just something to remember is often people look to get the word out to the widest number of people. They want the highest number of followers, they want the highest number of views, but that's not always going to lead to the highest number of ticket sales. So sometimes it's better to have a small but really engaged audience who are really listening to what you're saying, rather than splattering your message out to lots and lots of people who might not be that interested. So one of the things I would say with that is to try and use your social media particularly to have a little bit of a conversation with your audience. So if people ask you questions, answer them straight away. If people are sharing your posts, say thank you. If you get in contact with an organisation and they say, "Oh yes, we'll put some flyers out for you," or "We'll do this and that," you can thank them publicly. And it makes people feel really engaged with what you're doing. It makes people feel that they are part of a community, that they're part of a little team. And those people, there might be less of them, but those are the people that will buy more tickets.
Yeah, absolutely. Can we, I know a few people are asking questions in there, and I want to add on to what Kaz said by sharing my screen again. Look at me, screen sharing like I own this place. Sorry. Yeah, well, I was saying before, building that audience is so crucial. We've had it before now, and we didn't obviously at the beginning have it. So for you newbies, we're only a year and a half in, and now we have people going, "I've been to all 4 of your shows and we can't wait for your next show." So, you have this community that's being built just because you're engaging with them. And algorithmically too, if we want to dive into that, the algorithms of all of these social media platforms will boost your content more if there is an active engagement between you and comments. So don't leave a comment with just a heart. Think of something funny, think of something informative, anything, just do that. This is my little slide here, building a community. One of the things I found, which is super important, and it only dawned upon me last year, was get that follow. Now, this goes across any marketing that you do. So, for example, if you walk in the street, you give out a leaflet. They've got a leaflet. It might go in the bin. It might go in a drawer, whatever. But you've had that one moment to engage and hopefully for them to buy a ticket. So it's quite a small moment. Or if you've paid for an ad view, that'll get shown on their Instagram, and it's one moment. The next time you get to be seen by them, it would have taken more of your budget. So if you can send them, rather, I found, this is my personal thing, rather than sending people constantly to the ticket link, is I send them to my account and get that follow, because then what they're going to get over the course of Fringe is daily updates, daily reminders that you're there, daily intrigue towards your show. So it's really important, I find, to get them to follow you, because that's where they're going to become part of your community. So I do think that's super important. Thank you. I'm going to close that.
Absolutely. It makes people feel involved. It makes them more engaged. And then when you do have a message and something to say, they're more likely to pay attention.
Sorry. Oh no, that's keynotes. Sorry.
If you just stop sharing, then you can
I'm an oversharer.
behind the scenes.
Here we go.
Thank you. You're doing really well.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. That was really great, both of you. So let's talk press then. Mentioned it a little bit already, but Kaz, maybe you can lead on this one. How on earth do you get press to come and see your show? Where do you start?
So you ask them. Journalists will not do anything off their own backs. You have to feed them everything. And the more finished of a product you can give to the journalist, the more likely it is that they will write about you. So there is available, not quite yet, but there will be available a press list through Eventatron that you can all access, with a huge, great big list of all of the local journalists, reviewers, arts journalists from across the country, and you tell them about your show. It's important to have a press release to give them, and that should essentially be a little article about your show. And if you write it as if you were writing for the newspaper, so it's almost oven ready, so the journalist can copy, paste, it can go straight into their publication or their blog or whatever it is. So if you have that prepped, it needs to have, a good description of your show. It needs to have all of the important details. When is it? Where is it? What sort of ticket prices are there? How do people find out more? And make sure you put your contact details on a press release. Not so that would be published, but so the journalists know where to come for follow-up questions.
Yeah, 100%. One up really quick. I've got my one from last Fringe, if that's just say, I mean, obviously you don't have to read the whole thing. But it is just good to see, and it goes with all of the things you've just said there. You see that? Does everyone see that?
Yes, we can see that. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, all your information. That was just my little thumbnail from there. A little bit about what's going on when it starts, like a very short, what it is. Like I've got to hook them in, and then all the details there. And then obviously if they want any more. Fortunately, at this point, we had some photos. This is the second time we ran it. But yeah, and there's a list link to the Brighton Fringe. So, but one thing to add on to that, I would say, which I found very important, is that list that the Fringe has available for you all is an incredible tool, but don't blanket email everybody on that list, because there's going to be people from so many different, there's going to be comedy press, there's going to be different types of press, so don't copy and paste. Press don't respond very well to an email that looks like it's been copied and pasted. I personally sat down, went through and picked all those people off the list that I thought were most appropriate for the show I was doing. And then I looked that person up, like not in a creepy way, like where they lived or anything, but just, you know, what do they do? Who, you know, what type of articles do they write? What's the blog? What's their Instagram? Find something about them, because I think personality and the personal touch with these things is going to make you shine out amongst them being bombarded by 150 people during Fringe. You know, even if it's, yeah, whatever it is, just do your research. I think, you know, it takes 5 minutes to have a little look into each of those people that you want to reach out to, or each of those sites or blogs or whatever it is, press outlets. Just take a little bit of time and then tailor it, and then send them your press release.
Absolutely. And just to build on that, when you are, so you know, when you are writing your covering email that goes with your press release, you can make sure to point out any particular reasons why that journalist should be interested in your work. If you've done your research checking through that list, you'll be like, right, okay, this is a publication that is, let's say, it's based in Eastbourne, it's their local paper. Our lead actor was born and grew up in Eastbourne, and that's where he learned to act. So you mention that reason in your covering email. Or you are getting in touch with, again, like a food publication, you say in your covering letter, we think you'd be really interested, we're cooking food live on stage during this show. As well as then giving them the general press release, it's a really good idea to just flag right up front, your readers will be interested in this because, duh.
Yeah, flatter their ego. Yay. Massage the ego. It's always a great.
All about the ego, isn't it? And also just making their job as easy as possible by just going, here's why you want it, here's all the information, you just need to copy and paste it, thanks, goodbye.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And Kaz, can you tell us when the press list for this year might be ready and on Eventron?
I think it will be ready in March. It will definitely be ready by the end of March. Another thing to bear in mind is press is not necessarily one of the things you want to do really far in advance. There is kind of a sweet spot, and it isn't always, it's not always easy to tell when it is, but journalists have a shorter, particularly if it's an online publication and they're turning around lots of news stories, they will have lots of different things coming in all the time, and they will turn them around quite quickly. So if you send them in March something about an event that's happening in May, it might have got lost in the pile. And similarly, there are other publications, maybe something a bit more traditional, like a magazine or something, they will have a longer lead in time. So as you plan out who you're going to contact and how you're going to contact them, also think about when might be a good time.
Yeah. I'd also say for all the new Fringe people doing Fringe for the first time, it's easy to get like bogged down with how many things there are for you to try and do in this marketing thing. And the press, it is useful, but I wouldn't say it's, you know, it's 100% the be all and end all for if this is your first ever show. Obviously everybody wants somebody to come along and review your show and everything, but there might be, yeah, I did get a review the first time and it was awful, wasn't it? Actually, yeah. So yeah, it definitely isn't the be all and end all. The first show I got, I wish I hadn't invited them. They were quite mean. But yeah, no, generally don't get bogged down with it. If you can, obviously do the work and find somebody, but if they don't, building your audience for this is for new, especially newbies, build your audience is the most important thing to begin with, that community. There'll be a time for the press to come when you want to get it onto Broadway later on.
Absolutely, thank you. So we're running a little bit short on time, and I want to get, so we've had loads of questions come through, so I want to make sure we get through as many of them as possible. So I'm going to skip a couple of the questions, but let's go with one thing that people often overlook or forget to include in their, either in their campaign or in their content for their marketing. And I guess tied in with that, if you could give like one piece of advice to a first timer, what would that be?
For me, I think the thing people overlook is when they write about their show, when they write about their copy, they describe the show from their point of view. And sometimes they forget that that copy has got to do a job, and that job is to make people want to come and see your show. So there are so many different ways you can describe your show, but something I see quite often, and this is companies at all levels, certainly not just, you know, first time fringes, this is big established theatre companies as well. Sometimes they write from their point of view, not from the audience's point of view. So I've got a little example. Something you often hear is a piece of copy that will say something like, a groundbreaking experimental dance suggested by the traditions of East Asia. And you're like, okay, well, I know that it's dance and I know that it's got something to do with East Asia, but I'm not really sure what that means. And it makes perfect sense to the people that have created the show, and it is a perfectly reasonable way to describe it, but it's not telling people why they want to come and see it. So actually, they would want to say something more like, this is a dance piece inspired by Chinese festivals and lions and dragons costumes. And our piece will involve elaborate costumes, dramatic lighting, acrobatics, a touch of humor. So it's talking more about what will somebody see, what will they experience, what will they enjoy about it. And if you've done your sort of you're thinking about who your audience are, you might have some idea of the kind of things they want to see. If you are a circus show, you know that people want to see something exciting, something completely out of the ordinary. So that's what you need to talk about. And another sort of way to hook into talking to an audience and making it seem like something they would want is something you also see in marketing copy for arts is, it's like nothing you've ever seen before. That might be true, but that's actually not terribly helpful, because what an audience wants to know is, what is it like? You know, I really like Peaky Blinders. You've got a sort of set in the 1920s gangster drama. Is it going to be, am I going to like it because I like Peaky Blinders? So it can be really useful to have those kind of cultural hooks where you say, this is what it is like, rather than saying it's completely unique and like nothing you've ever seen. Even if that's true, it's to get people to buy a ticket and to take a chance on your show, it's better to say what it is like.
Yeah, very smart for sure. Another thing I'd say is overlook is sometimes your own ego can get involved, and by that I mean like you spend a lot of time like on a poster or on a blurb, and you do all of these things. Just speak to friends, leave your ego at the door and just speak to friends and ask them to read things, ask them to look at a poster once you've knocked it up yourself, whatever. The mistake I made the first year I did that Disco the Damned immersive cult night was I did it all. I spent days on it, thought it looked amazing, like, you know, Kaz was saying, like all the jargon and everything, it was from my eyes, everything was from my eyes, and printed the leaflets out and took them around to a friend's house, and he laughed at them. He's like, are you seriously sending them out? And I was like, why? He's like, it looks like you're doing a seminar, but like there's just no, from everything you've told me about your show, that poster does not show me that. And so I think you can overlook it by, I think, just being like, yeah, I'm doing the right thing, I'm being busy, I'm doing this. Just don't be afraid to speak to other people about it, and, you know, friends, and ask them, because they're essentially punters. And I imagine if they're your friends, they'll have similar interests. So you'll be able to tap into that.
Yes, that's a really good way to make sure your message is coming from the right side and that you're describing it in the right way. If one of your friends who knows nothing about your project, if they read it and they go, "Oh, I think it sounds like this, and this," and they get it correct, then you're doing it right.
Yeah.
Fab. Thank you so much. So we've got quite a few questions. I'll try and go through them in some sort of order. This is from Gabe. We've got, what would be the first step to figuring out who would come to our shows? Like, how does one figure out their target audience?
I think if it's a show that you would enjoy, then you are part of that target audience. So you can start with, you will normally have an idea of who will enjoy it, even if it's just like me and my mates, this is the kind of thing we like.
Mm-hmm.
So you start with that, and then you can kind of spread out from there and think about those kind of cultural touchstones. Oh, it's a bit like this event, or it's a bit like this show, it's a bit like this theatre company. So what are their audience a bit like? I mean, that's kind of the feel of your audience and kind of the things that they enjoy. If you there's a wealth of information available about people living in an area. I'm just going to say to everybody, the vast majority of Brighton Fringe audiences are from Brighton. So geographical is also important. So you kind of go, right, well, we think it's this kind of person. Where in Brighton do they hang out? What kind of stuff do they do in Brighton? And you can sort of build it up from there. There are all kinds of online resources with where you can go into kind of demographics, what kind of families live in different areas in Brighton. There's big complicated databases like the Office of National Statistics that you can go into if you think that's going to be helpful. But I think a good start is, who is going to enjoy this? Who is going to get something out of this? And then where can I find them?
Yeah, and add into that, like you can just go straight off the bat, be like, right, what genre do I sit in? If you're like, if it's live music, if it's like, it's good to look at that. That's a first starting point. If let's say it's my comedy show, be like, cool, right. So I know I want people that like comedy. In an ideal world, I want everyone to see my show because they might not be into comedy. They don't know, but they might enjoy my show. That to begin with, find people that like comedy. And then as far as the demographic and age groups you go, you'd be like, well, it's quite a highbrow comedy. And I imagine it might be more suitable for, an older audience, or it's a child-based show. So I definitely want to be looking at parents with children, because obviously children aren't going to buy their own tickets to a show. So, and then looking at, I think just going from the top down. So going, where does my show sit? What kind of people would go to those shows? Again, go online and look at similar people to you. Like if I was doing music right now, I would look at Brighton, people that like music in Brighton. So like On the Beach Festival, Boundary Festival, Land Beyond Festival. There's multiple music festivals in Brighton. You could go on to their thing and again, think about that. Is your show a little bit irreverent? So are we now looking at more of the kind of irreverent comedy or cabaret scenes or whatever it is? So just know who you are first, really break down exactly where you sit in the world. Again, in an ideal world, you just want everybody, but that's having niching is the way forward. That's what I'm trying to say.
Great, thank you. And so we've got a question from Charlotte who says, I would really like to outsource someone to do my social media. What would a very small social media campaign cost?
So, sorry, can you say that again? Was that outsourced to hire a person to do the social media?
Yes. I believe so.
That is a hard question to answer.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, that's a very hard question to answer. I don't know if you've got any ideas about that, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what level you're going to go in with it, because are you going to create the assets for them, or are they going to do that? And by that, I mean, are you going to make videos and then you're just going to give that content to them and then they're going to figure out a plan and share in? That is a cheaper way of doing it. Or are you going to have them make videos for you and do all of that? Because then that really gets expensive.
I mean, sorry, is it okay to just say what I meant? Because
Yeah,
I realised
absolutely.
I didn't specify that, which isn't helpful. I guess I kind of mean like absolute ballpark, so I can think about whether it's something I can afford or whether it's just completely off the card. So like an absolute ballpark figure, it doesn't have to be for a really amazing company or anything. It's just that
Yeah.
marketing stresses me out so much I can't actually handle it. And I'm also like extremely stretched working across 3 jobs.
Sure.
And don't
Sure.
really know what I'm doing and kind of need someone to help with that.
Okay.
But in terms of creating assets and creating content, I'm happy to do that. I just need the expertise of someone that can kind of take that stress off my hands and like try to work
Okay.
out where that could fit, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a service that Spark offers, and our day rate is £300 a day. But there are people who are looking for experience running people's social media campaigns who've just come out of uni or who are just starting out. And you can, I mean, you can go down to a sort of a small hourly rate, so sort of £9 or £10 an hour, and have a couple of hours here, a couple of hours there of them posting. I would speak to and you will be able, if you're offering something other than money, if you're offering somebody a nice little bit of work experience as well, then that can be something that can be quite attractive to somebody just starting out. But it's honestly, it's a real how long is a piece of string question.
Yeah, I think I would struggle with having to like micromanage someone that had newly graduated, just because that's something I'm also doing a lot of in other work that I do, is kind of managing people and supporting people. And I kind of need to just not have to do that for my show, I think. So
Sure.
I would be happy
Sure.
to pay, like when you say it's £300 a day,
Yeah.
maybe that's something that could be affordable to me for one day. And it would be like, okay, there's a day
Right.
of this work and then that's over. But at least I've given it a little boost,
Sure.
because it is
There
a
are
really small show in a really small venue. So
Okay. I would say in that case, if you have got a little chunk of budget in the sort of low hundreds of pounds, I would
yeah.
say go to the website of the Arts Marketing Association
Mm-hmm.
and look at their freelancer directory, because that will have all kinds of people at all levels of their career. There will be people that are just starting out. There will be people that have been doing that job for 20 years and they're getting hired by West End venues. It's a real mixed field, but everyone that is a member of that organization if nothing else, they're getting really involved in getting some very good training, which that organisation offers. I think that's a great place to start. You could look at some people, you can send some emails, you can send some inquiries out. How much do you charge? How much would you charge for this? And would you be willing, if I hired you for 2 days, would you be willing to split that into 2 hours on a Monday and 2 hours on a Friday over a few weeks? And the chances are, if you have that bit of a budget, you may well be able to find someone who can help you.
That's amazing. Thank you. That's so helpful. Sadly, despite working in the arts for about 15 years, I didn't know that the arts marketing agency existed.
It's very bad at marketing itself, apparently.
Yeah, there you go.
The irony.
Cool, thank you guys. Moving on then, Should ticket pricing be included on promos and in giveaways? I think this is going back to your bit, Tom, about
yeah. I mean, it's a difficult one. That, like, I prefer. Then this is one thing I was going to say earlier on, is like, about if I could say one thing that people overlook, and like, less is more, because essentially what you're trying to do is, like, it's information overload with a lot of things, like on posters and things like that. If you've got, we do cabaret, music, DJ, this, like, it becomes, and the price, you kind of want to get people to the point of, I could click and buy your ticket now, and the only thing that's holding me back is the fact that it's 12, and if it was 8, maybe I would, but by that point they're already locked in. Do you know what I mean? They're like, they're at the point of, like, I've seen all your socials, I've seen your poster, it looks really cool. They get right to that point of sale, and they've then got to decide, is £12 too much, or is £8 too much? And then they can make that decision. Whereas you might lose the people initially by putting £12 on a poster, and they go, oh, that's a bit expensive. But they've not read anything about it. They don't know anything about it now. They've just seen that their personal budget, it's outside of their personal budget. So I personally prefer to leave the pricing towards the end, and then it's like, yeah, by that point, yeah, I think I made my point. Sorry.
If you're talking about giveaways, there are rules about things you have to do with giveaways, but you don't have to put a price on. You don't have to say, I'll give you 2 free tickets, their retail price would be X. You don't have to do that.
Yeah, no. And I did add my is at @lost_hippo. And if anybody does do a ticket giveaway, I have a little legal blurb thing that I've found. And I mean, obviously look it up yourself if you want, but there's just a few things that you have to kind of cover your back with when you do any kind of ticket giveaway. But yeah, I wouldn't put the ticket price on if you're doing a giveaway.
Great, and they've said that makes loads of sense. Thank you so much.
Cool.
Probably our last question then, for the time being. This is also from Charlotte. So Charlotte works 3 jobs and they're all quite demanding. If you had only 3 hours per week between now and Fringe, how would you spend that time? What would you do?
I would, at first, make sure that my messaging, my key messaging, so that's my main image and my main show copy, are working as hard as they possibly can, because that is kind of the starting point for everything else that you do. If you've got those things right, you can then just use little chunks of them, use different versions of the image in loads of other places. So I would make sure that was done really well. And then I think the next thing would be find that audience, find where they are, and figure out who they are, find where they are, and the best way to talk to them.
Yeah, agreed. I would get your Fringe listing. Bear in mind the difference between doing a show at Fringe and a show cold on your own. Like, let's say I'm doing a show next week, is you don't have this amazing free marketing tool that you've signed up for with Fringe. Like, people are actively going during the month of May. People are like, oh, it's Fringe, I'm going to go see what's on. So focus on, like, having that as tight as you can. And with that, use that, if you post something on social, tag @BrightonFringe, because those, sometimes when the guys have time to get around to it, because they do get bombarded with it, can reshare that as well. So you've got this amazing thing that is happening, so that, you know, you could go out there all day trying to spend your hours doing press releases, but your actual blurb and your actual video and your actual thing on the Brighton Fringe website, you know, focus on that first. And yeah, I'm not going to go through this now because it'd be way too long with the interest of time, but I'm just going to show you a quick thing here which I can send people, or maybe at another time, maybe we can do like a coffee brain workshop thing with Fringe if they want it. I don't know, I'm happy to do it, where we could go through something like this. I'm sharing again, sorry, this is awkward. Is this thing here which I came up with was I came up with. Look at me bragging. Work smart, then hard. You could go out and give out leaflets for those 3 hours and think, right, well, I've used my time wisely. I've been busy. There's the whole 3 hours, but there is an order of effectiveness where you are more likely to get ticket sales in your for your show, and that's by going through certain things like who's seen your show before. They're going to be more likely to recommend it to a friend than anyone that you've just met on the street, and so on and so forth. So I can send that to people afterwards, but basically work smart then hard. Don't just go in guns a-blazing.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
Stop sharing. Come on, there you go.
Tom, if you send that over to us, then we'll share it out to all the attendees.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and let's talk about future academies that you can get involved with as well.
Yeah, we could do a little coffee thing, couldn't we?
Absolutely.
Cool.
You'll just have to bring it up. That's all we ask.
Yeah, there's a lot rattling around in here, but not much at the same time.
I don't believe it. Kaz and Tom, thank you so much for your time. Really, really appreciate it. We've got a couple more questions that, with your permission, I'll send on to you separately, and we can just arrange answering those to the right people. Kaz, do you want to talk about the bursary that Spark is doing with Fringe?
Yes. So the deadline for the bursaries is coming up very soon. I believe it's a week away.
That's great.
And SparkAMPM are running our own bursary. So with that, you get your entry fee for the Fringe is covered. You will also get marketing advice for the show from us. So you can ask as many questions as you like. It's all covered, and we can be that person that checks your flyer, checks your copy, all of that. And this bursary is more specifically for shows with an ambition to tour. So this might not be relevant to everybody, but if you're looking for your show to have a life beyond the Fringe, that's something we're particularly interested in. And at the end of Fringe, if you're looking to tour, we will build a marketing pack for you that will be designed to be given to venues that you are looking to get interested in your show.
Wicked, thank you. So as Kaz said, bursary deadlines are next Wednesday, the 28th at 5 p.m. You can apply to any and all that you feel is relevant to you as an artist or your show. So please take a look. Then you can find them on the bursaries page on our website and in our newsletters as well. And another key date for you artists is the 11th of February. You need to have a finalised event, 100% and paid on Eventron by the 11th of Feb, 5 p.m, and you'll be included in our printed brochure, which will be seen all around town. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Really appreciate it. And thank you again to Kaz and Tom. And we'll see you all in May.